How are you? So obviously you know who I am. I have no idea who all of you are. This morning, incident happened. Woke up at 4:30 in the morning. Got a call from one of my staff overseas. There's a student who'd gone missing, and so it's of course this heart-wrenching thing that happens at 4:30 in the morning. Needless to say, I didn't sleep very well for the rest of the day, and sure enough, at around 6:30, the student was found. She's fine. But it was funny in those 2 hours how much of a story I had invented. The student had been raped, murdered, killed, and all of the above. And during those 2 hours, I was so living them. And so I'll share with you my story. So I started at 19. I decided to take a gap year. The idea of a gap year is that you're going to go out, experience a variety of different things in life. You're going to have something that's going to be unique to you. Hopefully you'll have a better idea for what you want to get out of life. You'll try a lot of different things. You'll get a greater sense of idea of who you are. Because if you don't know who you are, it's really hard to know where you're going. And around that, I built this notion that passion is a better predictor of success than IQ will ever be. And to this day, I still think it's one of the most important adages that's gotten me through a lot in life. But few wanderers are, in fact, lost, and I certainly wasn't. During my gap year, I went overseas to India, Nepal, and Tibet, and I had one of the most mind-altering experiences. A little bit of hallucinogens, no, not really, and a variety of other things came to mind, though. I had spent 2 days as a goat herd. I trekked for 3 weeks in the Annapurnas, and one of the things that happened in those 3 weeks was 2 weeks into this 3-week trek, there was about a 2-day hike in front of me, and I was looking for this amazing town. And I mean, it was like Shangri-La. They had a German bakery, and I was 2 months into my trip, and I had been hunkering for some form of familiar food. And of course, I put my head down and just run straight towards that bakery. The bakery, the hot springs, it was astounding. I finally got there, and the minute that I turned around, I looked behind me, and sure enough, I had missed 2 days of the most beautiful villages I'd ever seen in my entire life. Just walked right by them. And so that taught me the power of the process. And this isn't new. This isn't radical to any of you, hopefully. But for me, focusing on the goal meant that I'd arrived at the goal. Great, and now I had a new goal. And then I arrived and had a new goal. And the most important part was actually finding the process, finding my own process. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about passion. Because this notion, passion is a better predictor of success than IQ will ever be. No one's going to argue that we don't want to find passion. Nobody's going to argue that I don't want a passionate existence. I think we all do. I mean, wouldn't it be nice if you're driving down the freeway and maybe it's traffic, maybe you're not driving, maybe you're just sort of waiting, but you're sitting there and you turn around to the people next to you and you're just thinking, God, you just look pissed at the world. It's so nice. Imagine watching everyone around you in that traffic jam, looking at their radio stations, looking in front of them, preferably not at their phones, text messaging, and imagine them singing along to that song with no shame, no shame. That's a passionate moment. I love those moments. Those are the moments that wake me up every day because so much of our days we spend asleep. So again, it's not that surprising that I'm going to advocate that we all look for a passionate existence. But meaning is one of the most important things. For me, that's how I derive passion. I heard it once on one of my favorite TV shows, Doctor Who. If you know what I'm talking about, then you're equally at that level of dork. But Doctor Who, what he was saying was that we all want to matter. We all want to do something that matters. We all want to have what we do contribute to the welfare of someone around us. And that could mean people, could mean things, but it's individual. I can't tell you what it is. Nobody else can tell you what it is. So just indulge me 1 minute. I'm going to ask you guys to reach out, close your eyes. So probably sit back in your seat, close your eyes, and I do mean this, you really do need to close your eyes because the visual sense is by far the most dominant of any of us. And reach out and grab your neighbor's hands. Just hold on to them. Maybe if you've recently picked your nose or sneezed, not a good idea. At least wipe your pant surreptitiously. And during that moment, I just want you guys to take 3 breaths. And I'll take them with you, but just take 3 breaths. Beautiful. Now, something may have transpired there. Something might not have. You might just felt a cold, clammy hand. I don't know. It's cold outside. But for me, when I have that experience, you just experienced, for me, a good portion of what that passion is. Even though we're not born passionately living in this world, perhaps, passion is such a significant part of our lives. And so, I want to bring you to the question, how do you find your passion? Because it's such an obvious statement, we need to find a passionate existence. Not so obvious, though, how you go about finding that. And so, do we learn it by lectures? Maybe, a little bit. There's some research coming out that says it's not a very good way of actually transmitting information. We learn it by being wrong, quite obviously. Osmosis, I must confess, when I was in middle school, I did put my history book under my pillow and slept before an exam. I did not do very well. Divine intervention, sometimes you get those sparks of genius. Yeah, that happens. Questions, of course, that's a significant piece. But not surprisingly, mimicry, trial and error. How did you learn how to walk? How did you learn how to talk? That's how mankind learns. That's one of the most significant pieces about being on this earth. Success. Passion is a better predictor of success than IQ will ever be. Again, you've got to try a lot of different things. Going back to that one slide before, how do you learn? Mankind learns by doing. So if we're going to sit back and have our teachers tell us X, Y, Z, that's beautiful, great information. But I have to try it. What's the relevance? How does that matter to me? And so success, oh my gosh. There's a guy who did a previous TED Talk. He took 52 weeks. Every week he did a different job for a week at a time. I tell you, he has a really good sense about what he loves to do, and probably an even better sense of what he hates to do. And we must not be afraid of hating what we do. We must not be afraid of messing up, making a mistake. Those moments when you say, fuck. Those are very important moments too. And I think that in terms of success for me, in all of my travels, I've traveled all around the globe many, many times. I've tried a lot of different things. I've put on a lot of different hats. And each one of them has taught me something significant. And so in terms of education, if we're to talk about education, come on, baby, light my fire. There's two different types. There's the incandescent bulb, that's the old version, where we're talking, 80% of the energy is wasted in terms of heat. You remember those easy bake ovens as a kid? Maybe you might not, but I certainly do, where you'd put something in the oven and it just relied on the heat of the light bulb to cook it. That's how inefficient this form is. And so in terms of actually transmitting information, that's lectures. That's what we've been doing for a good long time. And lectures, they have their place, they work for some people. But if we want to give our students information, this might sort of shatter your world, I know, but there's a thing out there, it's called the internet. You can Google things. It's actually a verb now. And we don't need to tell our students information. They have that at their fingertips. What we really need to be talking to our students about is how do you find engagement with the information and give them permission to fall in love with what they do. And that means trying a lot of different things. That's the LED version of the light bulb, of education, is showing them how to think for themselves. I remember so often before having a textbook and maybe the teacher would write something on the chalkboard. I know they don't exist anymore, chalkboards, but they have whiteboards or electronic whiteboards. And writing it on the whiteboard, and then all of a sudden, great, wonderful, now I know what's important. But so often, I don't know if this happens to you, but I would highlight something in my textbook, and then next thing I know, forget it. Because it was important, logged, categorized, I could move on to the next thing. And so if it was highlighted, I really didn't pay much more attention to it. So we need to stimulate our students. We need to give them some way to find an engaged existence. Because we all know how important passion is. We all know how significant a life can be if you're really, really, truly engaged in what you're doing. And I want to give you permission. I want you to have permission to reach out and mess up all the time, to watch this long, winding path find a route eventually to where you love to be doing what you're doing, so that you're singing, caroling in that car on the freeway. And so what I want to say is go long, go short, go your own way. Please feel free. Find that passion. As an educational system, there's a shift that's happening, and it's really important that it happen because it's moving in the direction of experience. It's moving in the direction of experience. That's all I got. Thank you.